Hello, everybody. I'm Derek Arden, and welcome to Monday Night Live and uncut. If you're watching this on YouTube or listening to this on Spotify or any other channel. Tonight, I've got a serial entrepreneur, a friend of mine, Sanjay Patel, who started his entrepreneur business from university and has got into all sorts of businesses. Sanjay, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Sanjay, tell us a snapshot of your life and your career. You're muted, Sanjay. I'm gonna.
Is that good?
Yep, that's good. Yep. Give us a snapshot.
So just to give you a bit of a background, I was a young 5-year-old when we came over in 1972 from Uganda. My parents had businesses, etc. in Uganda. We came over here. They came with very little, and obviously needed to make ends meet. We started off in East London, settling down in East London. Hence, I'm a slight West Ham supporter as well. And we ended up moving around to where the work was. So brought up with in different homes, different schools, and various ventures that my parents sort of dabbled and went into, really, and sort of was brought up in that sort of background. So a lot of my learnings were with various businesses, be it small. Generally, started off with the corner shop and worked up from there. So that's sort of my background, and then I went to university and saw some opportunities and started investing in property, being one of the mainstays of my career. So property investment is where I sort of saw an opportunity when I was at Portsmouth Polytechnic, as it was then, before it became a university.
And you've obviously got an eye for a deal. Where did you get that sort of entrepreneurial, what shall I call, spirit? Because there's a number of people like me that are bankers on here, and we were always really cautious and just couldn't get our heads round taking risks.
Yeah, I think it's probably learned and picked up by osmosis, being around my parents. Obviously saw them taking various risks, not that I understood them, but we were always going from one place to another, and almost like the Indian Del Boy was my father. So having that sort of around you, and then learning and watching sort of negotiations, and my father and mother sort of thinking on their feet to do deals and buy and sell businesses and be involved with them, most predominantly. I remember when I was probably about 14, I was regularly going to travel across from Wembley to near East Ham, a bakery, making rolls and what have you, to then sell as wholesale. Father used to deliver wholesale bread rolls to the likes of Whitbread, and I was part of it, and then go straight back to school, absolutely fatigued and falling asleep in the classrooms. But that was the norm. So picking that up from childhood, I think you just innately grow to see deals and see opportunities.
You become who you spend the most time with, and when you see your parents doing that, I guess you do it. They left Uganda in a hurry, did they, with Idi Amin, I guess?
Yeah, I think that from memory, they had 24 hours to leave.
Wow.
We had actually vivid memories of it. I remember the army generals coming along with guns, etc., of an evening, and the next thing I knew, we were on a plane the following morning, heading to wherever we headed to, and thankfully we landed in Great Britain at Heathrow, and
Wow.
And I must say, probably looking back, probably the best thing that's happened to our family. Because whatever complaints people have about Britain, I think it's got a lot to offer, and as long as you work hard and keep nose clean, it's you can make something of yourself.
Absolutely. It's actually the 5th richest country in the world, GDP terms, and I just wonder why everyone moans and complains, but there we are. So tell us about Portsmouth and how you got into that business.
So when I was studying biomedical science, as you do as an Asian, had to follow the guidance and study the sciences. Heart wasn't in it, but needed a degree below my belt. And I saw an opportunity when I was looking for property to rent for the following year with my friends, and just quickly doing the numbers. Well, actually, there's 6 of us, and we're going to be paying this much rent. How much does a house cost? And it sort of started from there very naively, and looked at the numbers, and I'm thinking, actually, it makes quite a lot of money in terms of return on capital. Not that I had the capital, and then very swiftly went on to, well, actually, this could be a thing. This could make money, and actually, I could live rent free. So save me some money, and number crunched. Got to talk to various people, trying to figure out how we do, how we purchase. And buy-to-lets then and student accommodation then wasn't a thing as it is today. It's actually an asset class today. And those days we had to go and see a bank manager and put a business case together. And I can remember the first bank manager I saw, and very, very grateful to him taking a punt on a young 20-year-old, 18, 19, 20-year-old. No business acumen, no business experience, and put a business plan together. Obviously impressed him enough and answered the right questions for him to look into my eyes and take a punt, and said, I'll back you. But he did look at me and said, do not let me down, because obviously he's putting his, I knew then, again, what I do now, putting his reputation on the line. And I never forget that. And I did everything I could to make sure that I didn't let him down. So that was the first payment that went out, even during the bad times. So it started from there, and lo and behold, the ethos was better quality accommodation, good service, which wasn't around then. If you remember the young ones, various individuals will remember the young ones then. That was the sort of standard of student accommodation, and I just wanted a better quality of accommodation, better rentals, better returns, and really haven't looked back since.
Now the market's changed on that. I know you've got a few properties down there, or more than a few, but what's happening for HMOs, which is houses of multiple occupancy, because the law's changing like crazy, isn't it, at the moment? Or we're not sure what the law's doing?
Yeah, over the last 20, 30 years, we've gone from virtually non-existent laws as HMOs. They were bedsits originally, or known as bedsits then, with cooking facilities within rooms. There was no real category for student accommodation. It was just buy a property, how many bedrooms can you get out of it? Need a kitchen and a bathroom, and that's it. Back in the 80s, so in the 90s, in 1996, there was a Housing Standards Act that was brought in, which required a standard of housing in terms of number of occupation, a number of occupants, number of facilities such as toilets and bathrooms, sizes of living accommodation, sizes of living rooms, sizes of kitchens, which was a sort of guideline, but wasn't really enforced until the 2000s. So we adhered to those sort of regulations, knowing it was coming in, fire regulations, fire panels, things like that. So there has been various changes over the decades for the better, because I think we'd all agree that good quality stock it has been difficult to find over the years, and the government have actually enforced this on local landlords. That said, I think with the changes that are potentially coming through, it's swinging very much the tenant's way rather than the landlord's way. So there's a lot of landlords sort of getting out of the market because it's can be quite litigious, a lot more admin based, and tenants, not that they have more rights, tenants tend to, in the perception of have more rights, tend to create more hassle for the landlord than is required. But you know, even for landlords who are running good ships, it just becomes a bit more steeped in bureaucracy, for a better word, which then affects returns. And unfortunately, when the government get involved and start legislating or passing legislation without really understanding the marketplace, it affects the people they're trying to help negatively. And my point in case is tenants. You know, tenants need better quality accommodation, but it needs to be affordable, because rental prices have really shot up over the last decade. The legislation that's likely to come, the rental reform bill, which is likely to come in some way, shape or form, is actually pushing landlords, good quality private landlords, out of the market, which then skews a supply-demand issue. So there's less supply, there's a higher demand, which only pushes up prices, which is actually then having a detrimental effect for the tenants, who are now having to pay more for the same with a sweep of a brush in terms of a rental reform bill that is just being talked about at the moment. It's just going through Parliament at the moment. So it's not in force, but just that process has forced a lot of landlords out of the marketplace.
I think I read that over 1 million private landlords had left the marketplace in the last 2 years. Yeah,
that's coupled with tax changes. You know, if one invested in property with a limited company, there are tax benefits as opposed to sole trader as such. So that sort of happened over the last 5-6 years, and it's sort of biting now with the mortgage rates increasing, with standard the accommodation being needing upgrading. The effects of the EPC regulation, standard D as a minimum, is required from here on in. So there's a lot of investment required from landlords, and the returns aren't there. So it's unfortunately pushing a lot of private, certainly properties in the private rental sector, out of the market.
Okay, can we turn to serviced accommodation now, because that's an area that you've identified as an opportunity both in Bournemouth and in Liverpool. I know they're a long way apart, but can you tell us about both of those?
Yeah, so serviced accommodation is almost an offering similar to hotels, but with a slightly different slightly different offering in terms of check-ins and check-outs, so short-term stays, have the good quality accommodation ranging from 1-bedroom to 8-bedroom flat properties, where you've got linen, towels, you've got maids coming in, cleaning and changing towels on a regular basis, but at lower cost than hotels. And you've got a larger living accommodation by virtue of having living rooms and kitchens to use as you wish. So it helps with families particularly. And in Liverpool, where Anfield is adding another 8,000 to 10,000 seats to their stadium due for completion this year, there's been a lack of good quality accommodation on match nights. A lot of supporters travel up to Liverpool, and so much so hotel rooms, even in Liverpool on match days, can go as much as £300, £250 a night, which is astronomical because it's still Liverpool at the end of the day. So this is where sort of serviced accommodation, either by room or in terms of houses that can be provided, 3-4 bedroom houses, there's an opportunity there that can be exploited, which we're working on currently, buying very close to the stadium, properties that are relatively cheap, and refurbishing them completely, ready to rent out for the next season.
So will you rent those out for 26 matches only? Is that the plan? So that they're there for Norwegian and Swedish supporters coming over, Irish supporters and that sort of thing?
Absolutely. So we've got the home matches, Premier League matches, any FA Cup matches, home matches, any Carling Cup matches at home, and sadly not UEFA, but any European football matches, and they can attract something like 30 days a year, and depending on the type of property, from £300 for a bedroom to £600-700 for a house for one night. So it's a good return, and the property prices are starting to gather a little bit of pace there, but it's still the returns are sort of 20-25% returns on capital, which is not really achievable elsewhere in markets.
How will you market that though? That's difficult to market, is it?
Spare rooms, no, it's not. It's very booking.com, places like that. There's lots of avenues to book, where we trialed service accommodation over the last year or so, and in other areas as well, including Guildford and Wolverhampton, and they work really well.
And it's similar to Airbnb, is it really?
It's pretty much an Airbnb, absolutely.
Yeah. And then you get someone to manage it, change the towels and the linen. It sounds hassle to me, but then you know how to do it.
It is hassle, but we've got tie-ins with local agents that will carry out we carry out all the bookings, etc., on the back end, which is pretty much all automated, and we have local agents who deal with the actual check-ins, check-outs, turnarounds, cleaning, etc., on set fees. So it works reasonably well, and they have an in to our booking system, so they know who's coming in when, phone numbers, ETAs, contact details. So they deal with the sort of on-site management, which is the difficulty for most landlords if they're managing themselves. It's very time consuming.
Now you're doing the similar thing in Bournemouth, aren't you? Because I looked up where Purbeck Road is, and it's halfway between the Hilton Hotel and the Marriott, which are the only real classy hotels in Bournemouth, as far as I can remember, when I was last down there a few weeks ago. Was that a strategic plan?
Absolutely. So Bournemouth, through the numbers, there's a dire shortage of good quality accommodation there as well. And again, landlords are getting out of that space. And the recent purchase through pre-auction, actually, it's a 7-bedroom H&M, quite run down. We've got it at a very good price. We actually complete on it tomorrow, and then we'll give the tenants notice and convert to a 9-bed HMO and refurb at a much to have a much higher rental return. And again, that scenario returns somewhere in the region of 25%.
Wow!
So it's a good little investment. With HMOs, anything up to 6 bedrooms is classed as a HMO. Anything over 6 bedrooms is classed as what we call a sui generis, which requires a different planning, has different planning criteria and guidelines and requirements, and these already have a sui generis status, and that can be quite difficult with certain planning committees to support. But it's understanding the nitty gritty, which is the deal maker. Which you clearly
do. So is that marketed at the tourist, or will it be marketed at a tourist in the summer and the business people in the winter?
It's a mixture. So we've got properties there which are marketed to purely tourism, and other properties which are long-term single bed lets. It's surprising how difficult it is to find a good quality rental at a reasonable price. In our day, we could find a 1-bedroom flat at a reasonable price. Nowadays, and it's not a reasonable price, it's quite a high price. We'll probably only secure a 1-bedroom ensuite, sharing with others in a large HMO. That's what the youngsters are facing nowadays, unfortunately. And I believe the next generation will be lifelong renters rather than property owners. It's just becoming unaffordable to purchase or to rent.
you think the property market will come down with interest rates at 6.9%?
Yeah, absolutely. I sort of was predicting it about a year ago that there will be a crash at some stage. It's just taken a lot longer than I expected. But it's definitely feeling like the crashes of the 90s and the 80s. Funding is just tight, liquidity is tight, affordability is tight, and something has to give, unfortunately. And I believe that the property prices will. They've already started to fall, to be fair. But I believe there's a long way to go still.
Okay, now here's the question I want to ask you. You know, being an entrepreneur, being very smart, why did you invest some money in Barrytown Football Club?
So I'd never heard of Barrytown Football Club before it was brought to my attention, and lo and behold, when I invested, I was informed that would you be interested in buying a club that's in the Champions League at a knockdown price? And racked my head thinking, who could it be? And we went through the top six, and thought, well, I'm not going to be investing in it. It's way out of money. And lo and behold, Barrytown at that point in time was in the Champions League, because it won the Welsh League. And a friend of mine by the name of John Fashanu, who was an ex-England footballer, was also a Nigerian minister for football, and basically had the in for Nigerian players who were coming out from football clubs out to Europe. And the opportunity there was to secure good quality Nigerian talent, and maybe not play for Barrytown, but actually certainly go through our books and sell on. So that was the sort of strategy, and it actually made sense, and it worked well for a good few years, where we continued to win the FA Cup, and we did the double on a regular basis.
Well,
not that there's that much competition, to be fair.
You mean the Welsh FA Cup, don't you?
The Welsh FA Cup, absolutely.
Yeah. I
don't know if you remember one of our first signings. If you remember the Beast, he's known as Adi Akinfenwa. He's still around at the moment. I think he played for Northampton.
Right.
But he was one of our first signings. Came from a Nigerian club through to us, and then we sold him on. I think he went to Leyton Orient. So, but the transfer fees, although not as big as the Premier League, the transfer fees actually made us quite a lot of money.
Wow, well done. I bet Cardiff City Cardiff City's quite close by, isn't it? I bet they were envious.
Yeah, unfortunately, they weren't in the same league. They played at Ninian Park initially, and I forget the owner's name then. But they were reasonably successful, because they came through our English league, and I believe they were at that stage in the second division or first division, but they had a very small stint in the first division for a while. I believe some time ago. So yeah, the same as Wrexham. Wrexham's another one. Doesn't play in the Welsh League, plays in the English League.
Of course, yeah.
So yeah, I don't know how that works.
Yeah,
Welsh club over the English teams.
I think they've always done it, haven't they? I think
they have.
So that's the reason for that. Okay,
but it was a good time. It was good. It was fun, and I would say,
so
never ever invest in a football club. Tearing my hair out.
So you were the chairman, were you? Did you go to every game?
No, I was a non-exec director, and yeah, went to quite a few games. It was great fun. It was a good giggle, actually, but it's a world that doesn't. I didn't understand that world. It doesn't operate like a normal business. It's yeah, it's a story for another time. But it was very difficult to get a handle on control of players and transfers, and the players needed to be mollycoddled. Even just things like paying their gas and electricity bills, we had to have dedicated staff to look after them, which is astonishing. But yeah.
And they have a lot of agents now. They're surrounded by all sorts of people, aren't they?
Absolutely, and they have their own ulterior motives. So it's always a challenge. It's always a challenge.
Okay, well, we're nearly at the end of the interview, and questions go into the chat box, but one tip for budding entrepreneurs watching this on YouTube or on Spotify, what would it be?
Or do you know, there's not one tip I'd give them. I'd give probably a few.
Okay.
They'll couple together. One is hard work. Hard work consistently pays off. Hard work, but work smart. You know, one can work hard without actually working smart and still not get out of a situation. So working smart, and you know, just look at the reason for taking certain steps. There's going to be an end goal, and we always need luck. But you know, networking does create that luck. Networking and surrounding yourselves with people that inspire and inspire yourself and create some sort of aspirations. I think that those sort of things that coupled together are a must for any entrepreneur, I believe.
Sanjay, thanks for joining us today. Will you stay on and answer a few questions? And can I ask members of Monday Night Live to give Sanjay the usual round of applause in the normal way?
Thank you.
Sanjay, thanks for joining us. You can listen to this on Spotify. You can watch it on YouTube again. And please join me next week when we've got Anna Gray on, a nutritionist. And Anna's joined us at the moment. Sanjay, once again, thanks so much for joining Monday Night Live.
Pleasure.